FLIKO!
Okay, let me give you a quick lesson on how to record things without latency. This is something that I've looked into heavily. It's something that I've really tried hard to figure out because it's a big problem in Ableton. And a lot of times, whenever you try to record a guitar, record a vocal, record something into the program and you're using a bunch of plugins, it records so off time. So for my people having latency issues, the first thing you're gonna wanna do, reduce latency when monitoring. So we're gonna go to options and you guys are gonna click reduced latency when monitoring. That's the first thing you should do to set Ableton up, just to let it know you're already having a problem. So if you haven't already clicked that, in your options, make sure you clicked reduce latency when monitoring. The next step, I would go look at this driver error compensation. Right now, this is saying 26 milliseconds of latency. Whenever you record something, if you're recording guitar, if you're recording vocals, if you're recording drums, sometimes it's better for your latency to record at a smaller buffer size. So if you go into your preferences and then you go into audio and you go to where it says buffer size under latency, I would never record at 1024 samples. I would never record at that high of a buffer size because even if I'm not using anything, there's gonna be some latency. Right here is showing you the overall latency. There's 26 seconds of latency right now. Look what happens when I bring this to 128. Now there's only 6 seconds. We just cut out almost 20 milliseconds, of latency. Now this is way closer. If we can get it down to below 3, it's almost unnoticeable for most people. If you're really sensitive, you got to get it pretty close to perfect. But right here, you can see now that the overall latency is around 6 milliseconds. If we go to driver error compensation, and I go, let's do -6. Now there's 0.05 milliseconds of latency. You will not be able to discern that. You will not be able to hear that. That's not going to bother you when you're recording for real. That's not going to be something when you track guitars. It feels like it's super late. Right there, now we've compensated for the latency. Somebody just said to me, Kenny, every time I record with auto monitoring selected, everything's late, but I want to hear all the effects. What this person's saying is this. Look what I have right here in my vocal template. This is a new thing that I've added. You see where it says latency? I have tracking and then I have latency. See, that's just in my template. I didn't have to add that or label it. It's already there. What I do now when I record in Ableton to make sure I'm getting the absolute minimum amount of latency on a vocal when I record somebody, I have 2 tracks that are recording at the same time. If I'm recording 2 microphones for a guitar, I record 4 tracks at the same time. I always record a duplicate track, so that the main tracking track, the track that I'm hearing, the track that these people are hearing whenever they're recording has effects on it, it has reverb on it, it has all these different things to make the guitar sound good or make their vocal sound good. But this latency track should have, nothing on it. Do you notice how the tracking track, external in, it goes to the master. So we're hearing this. And this is on in. The latency has nothing on the track. And notice I'm not going to the master. I'm going to 1 and 2. The point of doing that is to skip the mix bus. I'm skipping a lot of information for this track so I can record this track into Ableton, but I'm not necessarily sending it out through any effects or sending it through any chain. It's just a blank track recording with the monitoring off, and I'm sending it to external out 1 and 2, track 1 and 2, instead of sending it to master. Now it's not going to my mix bus or going through my mix bus or going through all these other factors in Ableton. It's just getting sent to 1 track. So now if I record something, my latency is already compensated for mostly. But if we go to record these 2 things, both tracks are recording right now. This one is muted, obviously. The other track's recording. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, I just recorded a bunch of things. I recorded the same thing on 2 tracks. But look at this. Because this one's going to the master through the mix bus, and it has all these effects on it, has a little gate to get rid of noise in my room, has a little EQ to get the vocal sound right, has a little de-esser, has a little 2A to reduce some of the peaks. Whenever you look at these 2 things that I just recorded, look at that. Look at the difference in the tracks. Do you notice how my latency track is way farther ahead than the track I recorded that has the effects on it? Did you notice that the track that has no effects on it, where the monitor is off, this is the most important part, this has to be off, and I'm not sending it to my master. I'm sending it to track 1. This is a lifesaver. This is a game saver. Look how far apart these two things are. If I had just recorded this the way I normally would record it, I would have dragged this down and I played that back for a singer or a rapper or whoever. And they would have said, damn, why does my vocal sound off? Why do I sound off time? Why do I sound da-da-da-da-da? The point is, whenever you don't have to use the same track that you're listening to for recording, you can reduce a lot of your issues by just having this ghost duplicate track that really doesn't need to make any noise at all. It just needs to record things perfectly. And then what I'll do is once I get a take that I like, I'll just take this and I'll drag it down into my main vocal thing. You guys know how I do my vocal chain. So now that'll be right there, and then this will be perfectly in time, and I can play it back with all the effects on it perfectly in time. You see what I'm saying? So what would have happened normally is someone would have said, da-da-da-da-da-da. They would have recorded that line. I would have taken that line. I would have dragged it down here, and then we would have kept recording. We would have gone to the next line. Okay, let's go again. And then they would have recorded this line right here, and then I would have taken that line. I would have dragged it down, and then we keep recording. We go to the next one. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, boom. We take that line, and we bring it down here. And that's how I would go through the whole song. I'd keep recording. But what's the problem is, if I was doing that with this track, you guys can see how late everything would be. Everything would be a little bit off. If I'm doing it with this latency track, all I got to do is hit record every time, and I'm still recording on both these tracks. So if I just hit play, and then I hit record, anytime I hit record, both these tracks are recording. So as long as you leave these two tracks duplicated with the same input, except this one's in and this one's off, and this one has no effects on it, and this one has your effects on it, you can listen to everything you're doing. You can have a million distortions and reverbs on your vocal and on your guitar, and you can hear it while you're recording, but then you know all the effects you're using aren't f***ing up the audio.